Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast. So during the press tour for Wicked for Good, Ariana Grande and director John M. Chu did tease that there are some ideas being tossed around for a third Wicked movie, but nothing is kind of set in stone, and you kind of figure something like that might happen because of just how big Wicked did in the box office. Of course, we're going to do a review here in a little bit, and Wicked for Good, from what we've already seen, most of the showings around here were sold out. It's doing gangbusters at it. Studio-wise is probably going to be asking for more of it. I just don't know if it's a good idea or not. You're doing the musical. There's still some stuff that they didn't include from the book. The book was, of course, darker and had a lot more to it than this. You also have, of course, a Wizard of Oz movie, and you have stuff that maybe you could do a prequel before Oz took power. The Wizard of Oz took power. Not to spoil anything for the ending of Wicked for Good, but there are some ways that you could do a third to kind of continue some of that stuff. But I don't know, story-wise, if it's the best thing to try to keep milking it. Because the studio will want to, sure. But is it the right thing to keep going back to it?
It always points me back to the whole conversation of what happens when these properties go beyond source material at this point. We're like, we could take this story in a brand new direction. That's not always the best idea, and it doesn't always turn out the best. Will the market come back for it? Especially if you're probably not going to have Cynthia Erivo involved in it, potentially. Or, who knows how much Ariana Grande is going to be a part of it, which she could wind up being the focal point of it, but is she enough to carry the power of this film? Because by all accounts, Cynthia Erivo is the best part of Wicked, honestly, in my opinion. She did such a good job as Elphaba here. Is there really a continuation there to really dive into for that story? Because you can kind of go back and talk about what happens, and I love the twist that Wicked does on the Wizard of Oz story that kind of turns what about the story on its head, and we'll get into that when we talk about the film and everything. But when you start going beyond the source material is when I really start to kind of clench my teeth at stuff, because we've seen it. It's easy to kind of always go back and poke at Game of Thrones, obviously, and saw how much of a dip in quality we saw once you got beyond the actual source material and started doing your own thing with it. Yep. It's not always going to turn out the best, and that's an easy one to point to as an example of why it may not be necessary to do. You get why they want more content out of this, because the original Wicked film did so incredibly well at the box office, and this one's well on its way to doing the exact same. Like you said, the showings we went to were completely packed and full, and everyone was excited and everything, and I think that's going to carry over for a minute here, and it's going to do very, very, very well as well. But I don't know, man. I don't know if it's worth really going back and trying to milk it for a third when they covered everything about the musical that made it as special as it was. So I don't know what they want to do. I get why they're tinkering around with some ideas, but I'm just you're playing with fire at that point.
Yeah, like you said, they covered everything in the musical. They didn't cover everything in the book, and, there's different ways to expand on it, but yeah, I just don't feel like it's the right thing. We have so many examples of when you go past the source material that it does wrong, but again, Wicked was something that went past the source material. It was its own version of stuff that didn't exist in the Wizard of Oz canon and everything from where that was created, and it did well, but yeah, when it comes to this point, it's you're just kind of doing it to milk it because it's making a lot of money. And, the potential third film isn't the only new potential adaptation that we're going for, because Winnie Holzman, who wrote the script for the Wicked musical, and Steven Schwartz, who composed the musical and the films, they're working on a new Wicked project together. They're saying it's not a sequel to Glinda and Elphaba's story, but a new idea that expands Oz into a new direction. So could potentially they make the third film based on this new musical that they're working on, depending on how well it goes. They could always see if they put out this new musical project, which he didn't exactly say it was a musical project, but when you've got a couple Broadway people working together on something, you have to think it's another musical that they're putting together. But, we don't know if that could third film could be an adaptation of that if they're working together on that, or if that's going to be something completely different from what they try to do with the third movie.
Yeah, you never know. And hopefully if, they are working on something new together, they have the opportunity to capture the magic of what made Wicked the global juggernaut that it became as far as a Broadway musical thing, because it is one of the most commercially successful Broadway musicals of all time. Like, it's been touring for a long time now, and it's still out there, and it's still having sold out shows. And then you tie it in with people that are going to see the movie. People want to go back and see the musical again. I want to go see another performance of Wicked after having seen both of these films again. Like, it's my personal favorite musical, and it's done so well that I like to see that cycle keep going, as far as, like, you go see the movies and you want to go see the musical because you saw the musical already and you wanted to see the movie, but now you've seen the movie and you want to go back to the musical. I like that it's kind of going full circle with that, but it's going to be interesting to see. I hope if they work on another musical that captures a lot of that same magic, and we have another wonderful musical property that they could potentially do a film with, but we'll see. The jury's still out on that, obviously, but very successful project they worked on before. We'll see if they capture that lightning in a bottle again.
It was part of the problem is that Wicked worked so well because of the change in what they did with Elphaba and Glinda. Like, it was about their story and kind of flipping what we knew about the good witch and the wicked witch of the West and stuff on its head. And if you're doing something without them, who's going to be your central character?
Right.
I mean, if you're going post-Wicked, who's left within that story? Because, going back to the original Wizard of Oz, the wizard leaves and Dorothy and everyone leaves, and you're left with a few characters left, and you've got things that have changed, but who is going to be your main character now?
Oz becomes this dystopian, futuristic land.
Does it become the Running Man?
It could. That'd be one hell of a tie-in, but no, that's definitely interesting to see how that plays out, and I'm excited to see what they do with it when they decide to come back together and do a new musical that's kind of in that general Oz type of setting, and see where they take it from. And maybe that's the direction they go. We'll see. They talk about expanding it. We'll see if it works, and hopefully we get something good out of it. But I do want to pivot us now into a story talking about one of our personal favorite shows that have come out in the last couple of years, and that is Shogun. You can go back in our archives and check out what we thought about it. Absolutely brilliant show. We're still kind of on the fence about the fact that they are doing a second and potentially third season of the show, because we thought the first one was absolute perfection and such a good show. But now we have some details coming out about season 2. It's actually going to start filming in January in Canada, and it's going to be set about 10 years after the events of season 1.
Yeah, and you've got a few returning characters. You've got a new actor in there that's coming in. We're slowly getting some cast, but I know we're both sad because we lost a lot of people in the first Shogun series of that, who we won't get back, because Mariko was one of the favorite characters of everybody. Anna Sawai was so incredible in that role. Like, she was such a standout, and you're not going to have her in that, of course, for what happened with her character. But yeah, this is another one, kind of like we were just talking about Wicked. Like, this is not source material. Like, there's stuff from the book that Shogun is adapted from, that there's stuff that they didn't do that they could go back to, but the book series, there's a gigantic gap between the first book and the second book where they're not really even tied together. There's such a, new characters, new setting, new other stuff like that, where these characters don't exist. So they're taking what was supposed to be a miniseries and taking it into a season 2 outside of the source material. So that's why we're still hesitant on it, because we gave Shogun a 10 out of 10. Like, it was a fantastic show that we all thought was a single instance. Like, this is experience, and that's where we're at. Now you do have Hiroki Sanada, who's back as executive producer, and he's starring in it again. So he was one of the forefront runners of making sure that they do justice to Japanese culture and to these characters. So having him on board still makes me a little bit more excited about it, but it's still a little hesitant, because you're going into this territory of stories that don't exist, and you're continuing it on because it was so popular, not exactly because you had another story you wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Because it felt like the writers were having to jump in, like, okay, the studio wants another season. Okay, let's figure something out.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not just thrown together like that because it was so magical. You also got Cosmo Jarvis coming back as John. He was incredible in season one. One of the few actors that didn't get recognized for any awards come award season, which was kind of surprising because we had all kinds of praise for him and his performance on this. We're also getting the introduction of some new characters, like you mentioned. We've got, famed Japanese singer and actor Ren Maguro, who's joining the cast in a new role that hasn't been disclosed as of yet, but it's going to be more family drama focused and maybe not as much like it's kind of the theme around season one as well, but it feels like it's going to be some kind of new drama in finding overall ways to bring overall peace to Japan based on what we've seen about the script so far. So it's going to be interesting, but man, I really, really hope we get a worthy follow up to such an incredible show that we love so much. And I need to go back and watch it again. I still haven't because I want to hold that specialness of the show, that having seen it already, and I kind of do want to go back and kind of binge through and watch the entire season. It may take a day now that we're getting into like some colder months, and we're not going to be as outdoorsy as we have been, and kind of more at home with it being cold and flipping to the winter months, and late fall, early winter here. The opportunity there to do it, and I want to take probably a whole day and just kind of sit and binge that show and just relive some of that magic that we got. Because if you haven't seen it by now, go check it out. It's on, if you have Disney with Hulu and, you have the option to watch it there, go check it out. It's worth the watch 10 times out of 10.
So incredible to me that they did the first season and they're doing the second season in Vancouver in Canada because it looked fantastic. It looked like a feudal type Japan in there. And they said, it's very difficult, not only because of like tax breaks and other things you need to get from like Japan to be able to film there, but Japan is, mostly a smaller area, and there's not too many areas that don't have modern buildings anymore. That's right. Not technologically advanced where they can shoot things that look like it was done, way back then. So, Canada and finding an open area where they can build these towns and build these buildings and everything else. And of course, CGI, some other stuff to make it look more like Japan. But yeah, it was just incredible to me to learn that they did it all in Vancouver, that's just a big shout out, not only to the actors and writers and everybody else, but to the production designers. Amazing. Because they did an incredible design building the sets. And like, we're excited, but we're hesitant because we just don't want it to hurt and ruin that legacy of that first. So yeah, you'll still have the first season if it's bad, but it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth if you go and you watch second season and it's nowhere near the quality of the first season.
For sure.
Then it's going to make you feel a little more off and bad because you want to be able to see the whole story of these characters. And if we had a whole story in one season, but now we're saying it's 2 seasons, because I think they already greenlit 2 and 3.
I believe so, yeah.
So it's not only just one season; they're expanding a mini series into 3 seasons. It's left a lot of us hesitant.
It's not a mini series anymore at this point. It's a full on TV show, and we're getting 3 seasons worth of it potentially. And just got to keep your fingers crossed that season 2 lives up to the hype from season 1. Because man, what an act to follow! Like it's a heck of a show to have to follow, and they got the work cut out for them. But we'll see what we get from them.
And we've talked about how much fans we are of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and how that was our childhood growing up and our love for the original movies with the the 1990 live action that they did. But we got some good news and a few bad news for Turtles fans. So the good news is Paramount is working on doing another live action Teenage Mutant Turtle movie. It was 2016 when Out of the Shadows came out, and not many fans were big fans of those. I mean, they made the Turtles gigantic and bulky and the CGI wasn't terrible, but it was just really weird because they gave them like noses and everything else, and it wasn't fun, that fun for a lot of Turtle fans. So they're bringing back a new live action, so this is going to be its own thing, not connected to those. But they say they're trying to Sonicify the Turtles franchise, which I guess more means that they're just trying to have more fun, lighthearted, family-friendly Ninja Turtle movies. But Sonic started off a little rough, but those 3 films have been really fantastic. Like, they were really well done, so it gives me a little bit of hope if they say they're trying to Sonicify it, that, well, it could still be really good.
Yeah, I mean, if they're trying to do that, that is more of a positive for me personally than just diving back in and trying a formula that keeps for whatever reason not working. But yeah, I'm excited about this potential opportunity for them to really dive in and do a new potentially family friendly version of the Ninja Turtles, because they've always been kind of lighthearted. Now some of the older comic stories are a lot darker that they could have adapted, and I know one that everyone was really excited about was the potential live action Last Ronin film that was going to be this R-rated film. And I say was going to be because unfortunately some of the bad news that's coming out of it is that is on hold for now, potentially shelved indefinitely. We don't know when they're going to come back and visit it, but that has been put on the shelf, and that part of it is a little disappointing because I know a lot of us, especially those of us that grew up watching it, were really hoping, especially with how brilliant the Last Ronin story is. If you've never read the Last Ronin comic story, go out of your way to check it out. It is a really fantastically well done comic story about the last surviving Ninja Turtle and how he pays tribute to his brothers, and the fun is trying to figure out which one it actually was that survived and kind of carried the mantle for the rest of them. And it was a really, really well done story, and it's a little disappointing that they're not going to have that coming anytime soon, but it doesn't feel like it's necessarily completely out of the realm of possibility yet.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. All this is happening because Paramount was bought by new owners. And, the billionaire ownership is making a lot of changes. They're also still going after Warner Brothers and trying to purchase them and have a monopoly of studios and properties here, because that would give them DC and everything else. But, yeah, that's disappointing because I was really, when they announced it, everybody was looking forward to it. All right, we're getting a dark, gritty, rated R, hard-hitting Last Ronin film. And we haven't heard anything about it. And then, well, yeah, the new ownership killed it, but they also killed off something else that seemed to be going really well for them. And so we got Seth Rogen's Teenage Mutant Turtles Mutant Mayhem film that did really well. And that was supposed to be kind of starting this universe where they have video games and they have TV series. And we did get the first season of one of those series, which was Tales of the Teenage Mutant Turtles. Well, the new owners came in and canceled it right in the middle of production. So they've got enough episodes done that they're putting out a season 2. Apparently that's going to drop in December. I think January to be on Nickelodeon. But they killed it in the middle. They had a 4-season order for this series, and they killed it in the middle of season 2. So that's pretty disappointing, and that makes you wonder, like, we do have a second Mutant Mayhem film that'll be out, I think, in 2026 or 2027. But does that also potentially spell an end for that franchise too? Like, if they're, because they said the series wasn't in their vision, but it's very closely tied into the film series. So do they consider the film series not to be in their vision either?
Yeah, it sounds like this is the unfortunate part with corporate mergers is you have plans in place and things that people get excited about, and you just come in and get it wiped out because new people, new agendas, and you start to see the fallout of that is in something like this. And it's a little disappointing because we've gone back, and you can go back in our archives and check out how we feel about these things, but we did our review of Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and talked about how we enjoyed it and how it ties into Mutant Mayhem, and Mutant Mayhem is a really, really good return to kind of form of like Ninja Turtles being teenagers, actual teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the young voice cast and everything that they had for it, and it was really well done. And it sounds like it could potentially be coming to a halt with the end of this film in this season. Like, we don't know if there's going to be anything beyond that, and it's a little disappointing. But this is what you have. This is what happens when you get these corporate mergers, and these guys are chopping things off here, and it's kind of disappointing, man, because I really liked what they were doing and what they were building, but here we go. We'll see what happens. At least we're getting the Last Ronin video game. There's a positive to come
potentially, because it was announced in 2023 that the studio had layoffs in 2024, and we haven't heard anything else. It's almost 2026. We haven't got any potential updates. It's in development with THQ and stuff, but we haven't heard anything else on that, so we don't know if that property's dead. And I also wonder if the new ownership is planning a new animated series, because we don't have currently running a traditional Teenage Mutant Turtles series like we've had. We've had so many different from when the 1989 series started, the animated, series. We have had, I think it's been a couple years since the last one ended, so maybe they canceled it because they're planning on a brand new, not tied to any other kind of reboot animated series for the Turtles as well, and they didn't want to have any confusion between, that. Maybe they'll leave Mutant Mayhem going as a film series, and then they're creating their own new animated, but we don't really know. They didn't say anything else other than they're just canceling this and right in the middle of production. Like, animation takes a very long time, and it takes a lot of people and a lot of time. And yeah, you have a 4-season order, and you think you're sitting pretty for many years because you think that's at least 1 to 2 years per season of working on stuff, and it's dead before you even fully finish season 2. Because as far as we've heard, they didn't fully finish season 2. Yeah. That it's whatever they got done is what's coming out.
And you wonder if what they're putting out is even going to wrap up any potential story they got or lead into what the movie is going to be. Or if there's gaps in stories, which is unfortunate, but it's the hand that we're dealt. So if we get these last episodes of the animated series next month, the way it's sounding, we'll have to check them out and see what they give us, and we'll have to talk about it for sure. But I want to move us into our last story that we have, which is kind of another franchise. I know this one is kind of close to you, but we're getting word about a new potential Stargate series in the work at Amazon, which we both love the original Stargate film, obviously, that came out almost a little over 30 years ago now, which is crazy considering when you still watch it, it still doesn't look like it came out 30 years ago.
All the way back in 1994.
And a lot of things, and it hurts my heart to say 30 years ago and talk about 1994. But you have Martin Garrow, who was the writer of the 3 Stargate TV shows that have come out, is kind of serving as a showrunner for this, so you get a little bit of that continuity from before. So there's definitely a lot to look forward to in this one.
Yeah, he's writing, executive producing, and show running it, so at least you have someone who's connected, because the movie and the 3 shows became cult classics like almost right away. The shows were really popular. I think the last season of the final show wrapped in 2011, so it's been a little bit since we've had anything Stargate, but I watched the series. I didn't watch all of them all the way through, but I enjoyed them. But it's still, the movie has a place in my heart as a guilty pleasure. I mean, you got James Spader and Kurt Russell, and you just have that introduction of this portal that takes you back into ancient Egypt. Of course, the show expands the portal into so many different directions from that. But there's just so much fun stuff in that movie that gave you that mix of military with ancient Egypt, and you got to see, like, it was such a fun film that I'm kind of looking forward to that. Maybe I'll jump into this. Like, we don't know if it's supposed to be any sort of continuation of anything else that's been done in the Stargate universe between the shows and the film, or if they're going to just completely kind of reboot, restart, and act like it's new, and which kind of makes more sense. Like, it's going to be 15, 16 years before this show is out from the last one that came out, and as you said, over 30 years from when the film came out, so it should be a complete and full reboot, and I'm kind of looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, it's definitely one that they get excited about if you're a fan of that sci-fi, military, futuristic, but not futuristic kind of way of going about things. But it's a really fun story to kind of dive back into, and I'm excited to see what they do with it.
So yeah, we don't have a release date or anything for it yet. It's going to be happening over on Amazon, who has been picking up a lot of different properties here and doing fairly well with them so far, even though everyone's a little mixed on Lord of the Rings and how they've handled that show. We've enjoyed it. A lot of other people haven't enjoyed it as much, but I think they've done fairly well with Reacher and all these other shows. So I'm kind of looking forward with it. You got Amazon with plenty of money to throw behind it. You got someone who was involved with the series, the 3 series before. Get a modern, see what the Stargate and everything looks like with modern technology and CGI and stuff. That I'm looking forward to see what this is. But yeah, with how much probably CGI and other work it'll need, we're probably not going to see this before probably 2027.
Easily at the earliest, because there's so much that has to go into it with visual effects. Like you said, like, it's going to take a while to do, but we hear all the time about these things being delayed 3, 4, 5 years. So it could be 2027, 2028 even before we could see it, depending on how much they really invest in it. But yeah, Amazon's got some really, really solid shows on it that I'm more looking forward to this when it comes out because of the success of some of the other shows that they've had on there. I'm excited to see what they do with it.
Yeah, we're still up in the air about their handling of James Bond, but we'll have to wait and see on that because we still got a while. he's just wrapping up Dune 3, but he's still got all the editing and stuff to do, and it won't be until next year that we really start hearing any solid details out of Bond. So we're nervous about that one, but they've done well with the other stuff. But that series that we're for their film, and potentially, they've talked about doing a Bond universe that could be more shows and everything else. We just hope that Amazon does right by these legacy properties and doesn't just run them into the ground.
Yeah, that's the hope. So jury's out, and we'll see where they go with it. To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.